if I'm still working, how am I avoiding that Part B penalty then? So it's a great question. So if you are still working through your initial enrollment period, age 65, and you plan on retiring, let's say at age 67 or 68, then you enter a special enrollment period, and this is an 8-month window that begins at separation of service. And to avoid that Part B penalty, there is just one extra form that you would need to submit, which is completed by your employer, confirming that you did have qualified coverage since turning age 65.
Great information. Okay, let's go to annual enrollment period. That's the same time each year, and there's a checklist. I mean, the families and individuals that we work with, they've been given this checklist. They've seen it before at the Lunch and Learn presentation that you gave, and we want to share it with you today too. So let's go through it, but let's remind people that enrollment period, what it is.
Annual enrollment happens every year. So just like you're scheduling with your tax prep individual at the beginning of the year, you want to mark this on your calendars every year as well. And it's October 15th through December 7th. And this is known as the annual enrollment period. And this is where you can make sure that you're still set up for success for the cost of your medications, making sure that doctors and specialists are in network if you're on an Advantage plan, keeping you on that path of success for the next year. And that checklist you talk about, Molly, it is a great standard that we set to make sure that you are set up that way.
Yeah, let's take a look at that checklist. It's on your screen right now. Here's what we've got. We got supplement plan first, doctors and specialists, prescriptions, and pharmacy. We want to break each of those down and talk about them. So let's go with the supplemental plans first. What should you check on here?
So supplement, just making sure that you are comfortable and still happy with the supplement that you are on to help cover your medical care, whether that's a traditional Medigap plan, which are all the lettered plans like Plan F, Plan G, or if you're on an Advantage plan, making sure that that is still something that you're comfortable with. Because if you're not, this is the time frame where you can switch to that other plan. Keep in mind though, a big thing to always keep in mind is if you are on an Advantage plan, if you want to make that change to, let's say, a Plan G, you would need to answer health questions and be underwritten, and that would happen during this time frame.
Okay, next on that checklist is your doctors, your specialists. What do you need to do each year?
So if you're happy on your Advantage plan, make sure that your doctors and specialists are still contracting with that plan for the next year, because even if you haven't changed providers, these doctors can and do change whether or not they're going to continue that contracting with that carrier.
Okay, and prescriptions. This is a big one, AnnaMarie, and you've seen firsthand how if you don't check on this, it can really hurt your pocketbook.
It's so true. And this is what keeps everyone busy during the annual enrollment period. Because if you are on, Advantage plans, they cover prescription medications. If you're on a Medigap, traditional plan F or G, you have a standalone drug card. And whatever plan you're on to cover your medications, these plans can and do typically change the formularies of prescriptions that they cover every year. So the most heartbreaking conversations I have with people is they call in February, the beginning of the calendar year, and they're like, I just went in to get my refills, and last November I was paying $20 copay. I'm now paying $300. What happened? And their agent didn't follow up with them, or if they were doing themselves, they just didn't know that these plans change every year, and so they weren't having the same coverage that they experienced the previous year.
Yeah, and you've got an example on the board set up for us what we're about to look at, kind of, and why these prices are so different.
So this comes down to pharmacy. So this is probably the least known factor about what to check on with regards to your drug card or your Advantage plan is pharmacies. Because it's pretty standard and typical. You go to the doctor and they're like, well, what pharmacy do you want this sent to? And you say your typical pharmacy. But once you're on Medicare, pharmacies actually contract with different prescription drug cards or Advantage plans very differently. And it's basically a choice between preferred, standard, or out of network. Now I'm going to show you an example. This is a real example of a drug card that we pulled up, and it illustrates the difference between pharmacies. Here's a list of prescription medications and dosage amounts, and then this is how this drug card, which is a great drug card, contracted between Walgreens and Hy-Vee. Both great pharmacies, it's just on this plan, Walgreens was out of network. And look at that cost difference. Now Walgreens is in network on a lot of drug cards, but on this specific one, it was not, and we see we're dealing with thousands of dollars in difference. So that's not a big one that's talked about a whole lot, is pharmacy, because it's such a natural, easy, we're used to saying a typical pharmacy, we live close by, but that is a big part of the conversation.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with the quality of Walgreens versus Hy-Vee, right?
No.
It could be flipped. It doesn't matter. It's just the point is that these plans change. They can change frequently, and you just need to make sure that you're not surprised. It's kind of like all the components of the plan. With each one of these changes, one of the last things that you want to do is be surprised, especially to the tune of what that surprise is, right? $3,700 or $3,100 is significantly different than $12. So the importance of making sure you stay on your plan and then making sure that you evaluate it each and every year.
Yeah, and let's take a look at that difference again, because just in case you're at home and you had a smaller TV, maybe you couldn't see the numbers, I think it's worth looking at here one more time on the screen, the difference being $3,000 to $12, $1,000 to $12, $800 to $12, and nearly $400 to $79. So if I'm on one of these plans, AnnaMarie, is my best thing to do to call my pharmacy and say I'm on, again, I don't know the names of these plans, we say your specific name and they can tell you if it's one of their preferred, or do you call the drug card and have them check with your pharmacy, or how does it work?
Yes to all of those.
Okay.
They can contact their agent, they can contact the plan that they're on, they can contact the pharmacy, absolutely. You just want to make sure you cover your bases and know what to expect when you go into that refill.
Well, this is really why we don't see you for that 6 to 8 weeks in October, because you're meeting with our families and this is what you're reviewing, right? You're reviewing what kind of drugs are you on now, this is the plan you have, this is what it covers, and making sure that everybody's aware of the coverage going forward. So do they need to make a change, or is what they have going to work for them going forward?
That's right. Yeah, and this is what keeps us busy, is the medications. It is the biggest factor on how expensive your costs can be if this isn't what you're reviewing every year. So absolutely put that at the top of your list.
Thank you for watching this clip of Retiring Today, and don't forget to subscribe. If you have questions about your retirement plan, take advantage of the complimentary 15-minute retirement checkup phone call.